Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts. Hey there, true believers. Andy Nelson here from the Marvel Movie Minute podcast with the rest of the team.
Pete Wright,
Kyle Olson,
Rob Cabasco,
and Matthew Fox.
This is the podcast where we dissect the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time, exploring every detail of this epic superhero franchise.
In our season looking at Iron Man 3, we're going to mix things up a bit.
That's right, Rob and I are your guides, but instead of our usual minute-by-minute format, we dive into 5 minutes of the film in each weekly episode.
It's a totally new approach, but one that still allows us to explore all the depth and detail that makes these movies so special, even if Iron Man 3 isn't all that special.
Hold on, that's where you're wrong. Extremist, Shane Black.
Yeah, would you like to look at the Mandarin and Maya Hansen? Mm-hmm.
So whether you're a die-hard Marvel fan or just love deep dives into movies, there's something for everyone on Marvel Movie Minute.
Suit up and join us on this epic audio adventure. You can find us at truestory.fm or by searching Marvel Movie Minute on your favorite podcatcher.
Because in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, every minute is packed with excitement.
Enough said.
Do you like movies?
Do you like sports?
I never played that sport on the screen, but I really enjoyed how the movie made me feel.
Well then, have we got a show for you. The Adrian Moment is where my friend Ocean and I discuss the triangulation of sports, movies, and life.
We dive deep into the movies, discussing how they relate to and have affected our lives.
We will talk about why the sport matters to the movie, why you don't have to love the sport to enjoy the movie, and mine a few nuggets of meaning inside the story you may not have realized was really there.
After listening to our show, come join us for more conversations about the movies that portray the thrill of victory
and the agony of defeat.
Find the Adrian Moment podcast on your favorite podcast app and join us while we cover the sports you love and the ones you never think about.
You will never see sports or sport movies the same again.
All the Feelings presents
Adulting.
This episode,
Money.
Pete, oh my God, season 10, can you believe it? There's a 1 and then a 0. Ugh.
I know, right. This is absolutely thrilling to me that we are still here and we're still doing this silly thing. And this season is a season that has become important to my life.
Because of, some would say, the aging process. Some would say...
The aging process, and because I realized that, as are we firmly in middle-aged right now? Is that
100%.
where we are?
100%.
We are.
Yeah.
When did that start? This is like the Cold War. Did everybody really know when it started and when it ended? I think when the wall came down. But we sort of eased into it. And
yeah.
now,
I think like
how do we know when we started middle age? 45?
45-ish, I'm going to say.
Oh, well, I'm firmly in middle age then. Oof. And I just find myself, as we've been exploring all of these subjects over the last, 9 seasons, there are still things that feel like, oh my gosh, I have in my heart that I should be able to do these things, and my goodness, why are they so hard? Just went out to breakfast with my family and some other friends, and I mentioned I'm going back to record this podcast with you, and each of them immediately had a thing. Adulting. Oh, what's that? You mean like making phone calls? You mean like scheduling a doctor's appointment? You mean like all of the things that cause them just massive amounts of anxiety, one after the other.
Well, I like that we're calling, because we're not just saying being adults. It is that's a big part of it, but we're using this as like another step in life. Like in the beginning, you don't know anything and you put everything in your mouth. Then you believe in Santa. Then maybe you have different thoughts about Santa. Spoiler alert.
Good catch, Tom.
And then you can be anything you want. And you're going to be, you used to want to be like an astronaut or a doctor or a lawyer. Now most kids apparently want to be influencers. That makes me want to throw up on this microphone. And then you get a job and you realize, yes, this is my temporary job, but I'm still going to shoot for the stars. And then at some point you realize, okay, maybe not everything came true, but a lot of stuff did. That's exciting. And then you reach this part, which is, but then all the simple stuff that I thought, on my way to becoming an astronaut influencer, I was going to, of course, just learn how to do all these things because my parents, and the parents before them all seem to know how to do all of these adulting things. But I'm here now, and there is no night school for adulting. You just sort of trip over your own body parts and fall into it and make mistakes or don't. That's the adulting part. It's the idea of what do we know, what did we think we would know by now, and what still is sorely missing as we all fake our way into normalcy.
This season is dedicated to the unspoken, should be spoken truth of adulthood, that nobody actually knows what they're doing most of the time.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk through the emotional chaos of all the things that by now we feel like we should have mastered, but still make us feel like 12-year-olds in oversized suits.
Exactly. And if you feel the same way, we'll give you a pitch later on. But we want to hear from you. We didn't hear from you that much during last season when we did Sins and Virtues because that was sort of a closed loop. But this time, if you have things that are coming up during your adulting stage or things if you're not an adult, but you're wondering how that will work, of course, how can they best reach us, Pete?
Allthefeelings.fun. Yes, allthefeelings.fun. Fun. That is a real website, and you can go to it. And it's not trying to steal your identity. I promise it's real. And you should go there and check it out because you can see all the episodes that we've done in the past, and you can become a feeling friend. We'll talk about that more later. But there's also a button that says submit your thing, and you can submit your thing right there.
Submit your thing. Yeah, but it's like if you have stories that you want to share, questions you have, topics you want us to cover, we are here for you. So, season 10, episode 1, already stellar. Should we get this adulting train a chugging?
And I believe it starts with you. I'm just trying to get home so I can be ugly in peace.
Bumper sticker seen at a stoplight on Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks, California.
Subset 1.
Home ownership.
Pete, I want to start this with a question.
Sure.
Are you ready? Do you like my new laugh, by the way?
That's good. That's a new bit.
How long have you lived in your current home?
26 years, going on 27, I think. 26. We'll say 26
years.
Right
this
now.
Is the house that I've been to.
You've been to this house.
I love that house. Okay. And is this the only home that you have owned / mortgaged / rented that you've been in charge of, or have you been in charge of ones before?
We moved into our current home, and we said for sure that we would only live there for 3 years, and then we would move to a different one, and we did not follow through on that.
I might come back to that.
This is the only home that we've ever owned.
Before that, was it apartments?
Yeah.
And before that, dorms?
Yep.
Okay.
And before that, my childhood bedroom. How far do you want to go back, Tom?
And then before that, heaven itself. Now, here is the question that I sort of want to be chasing a little bit for this session, not because I'm trying to call anyone out or deliver any kind of contrary worldview. I'm going to use this as trying to figure out myself. So welcome to my therapy session, Internet. Do you remember why you wanted to move into your home? Why a home? You said a home is the next step, and here's why we want to do it.
Yeah, because when we were in a place to think about where we wanted to be next, I feel like we were very much in template mode. We had, we had been living together in an apartment for about a year, and when we decided to get married, we got married, and we decided we're gonna continue to live in the same place. But there was a template of what it meant to grow a relationship and then a family. We knew we wanted to have kids. And that seemed like, because of where we lived geographically, in Portland, we weren't in a big city with awesome transit, that buying a home that had reasonable schools and things like that seemed to make the most sense. And all the advice we got from our parents was around that because that was their template. Right. And that just became the channel, right? We're in the pipe, 5 by 5. That's what we did.
And this template, could another word for this template be the American dream?
I guess it could. I don't know that I was really conscious of that, but
Right.
but absolutely. I mean, sure, family, 2 kids, apple pie on the windowsill. I guess you could say there's some aspiration to that, maybe.
Yep. Some sort of hobo like
None of that came true.
floating through the air, like into the pie cooling
Yeah,
waves.
right.
Yeah.
All of our animals were
Yeah.
made of linguine.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, because those are all of the reasons to have A, the American dream, B, if you have kids, C, to have a yard. It can be an investment, emotional stability, physical stability.
And remember, like at the time, buying a home was economically reasonable.
Well,
Right.
we're going to be getting into that, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I meant about the investment. That
Yeah.
it was a pretty big, sizable, chunk, but then you were not throwing money away every single, you were making an investment that would come back
Right.
and really help. So why I'm so glad you brought up template and then you allowed me to shift to the American dream, because I'm not saying that owning a home shouldn't be a part of the American dream, but for someone like me, should it? Making such a massive investment that you pay off for the rest of your life is a way to think about it. I've only lived in apartments since I moved out. Well, dorms and then apartments. And I feel like I'm weird because I'm not that excited about buying a house. I never really haven't been. Granted, I have, and this is a huge part of it, I have no children, no plans for it. But still, I wonder. And I am my feelings are very much in the minority. There was a survey in 2022, March 2022, released that's found that, do you want to make this a game? Okay.
Sure.
In what order do people think that this is a gauge of prosperity? There's 4 things, okay? I'm
Okay.
going to put them in no particular order. College education, children, career, and home ownership.
Okay.
What do you think is the least to most?
Okay.
Or most
Tell
to
me,
least,
give me
whichever
the
you prefer.
list again. Give me the
Sure.
list again.
College education, career, children, home ownership.
Today, college education, career, children, home ownership, number 1,
And you went from bottom to the top?
from bottom to the top.
I think you did it 1,000% correctly. I don't know why I made it such a number riddle, but yes, college education only 35%, children just higher 40%, having a career 60%, and way at the top 74% of respondents ranked homeownership as the highest gauge of prosperity. So it has been drilled into us, and I think it
Yeah.
is. And I'm not going to. I did some research, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is a real American thing. That's why I want to talk about the American dream. There are so many other countries where this is just not the case. And renting is just a part of life. Granted, renting is a lot better of a situation in places like Denmark. I mean, it's made to have a nice rental place in different places around the city so you can be near where you work. All of that. But the American dream is I'm going to carve out my part of land and have a lot of room for a few people and probably have a gate around it. And then that will be my spot that I am completely in charge of.
And it's like, since when? Like, since the westward expansion? Like, did the pilgrims come over here and say, like, you know what would be dope is if we just put a gate around this parcel and it was ours and we put a house on it and nobody else can come in?
It started, well, because you're bringing it up, I can like zoom through the history of it because the American dream isn't terribly old. The idea of the American dream, as I understand it.
Neither is
Owning-
America, Tom.
Good point. Owning land was important. Owning a house on that land was just a side product. The Homestead Act really tried to make things exciting, but then it really wasn't until the New Deal that owning your own home really started getting pushed. It was before then, it was like after the Depression and with the New Deal, it really started getting pushed. And then after World War II, that's when the government started doing mortgages, government-backed mortgages, all these different programs. And since then, it has been consistent. So it's kind of relative. I know you're right, America's new, but it wasn't always the idea that owning a home is 75%. It just wasn't like that for a long time.
Yeah, it seems like there are these phases that cause home ownership the drive to homeownership to expand because of economic incentives, right? And I know soldiers coming home from war is a great time to expand suburbs.
Yeah, because you're having
Right.
so many kids. Where are you going to put them?
Right. Where are you going
In
to put
the
them?
wagon? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I was worried that maybe I only feel this way because I've gotten so lucky with all the apartments that I've lived in, have been so completely positive experiences.
Not many people have just scores of sheet metal all over their walls.
Well, that's what I wanted to, in case this is your first episode for some people, I want to do a very quick Tommy Magoo apartment living roundup, because as soon as I wrote that idea down, I was like, wait a minute, I've lived in S-holes at times. I was happy there. The apartment building I live in right now, I love. There's one complaint that I have is at one point they switched out all the hallways. I've told this on the podcast before. They wanted a carpet that clearly they didn't have to clean every second if there was a stain. And so they have this pattern, this yellow, red, orange, black pattern, which is made to bleed out on. And then you can just sort of like run a mop over it. Past that, the building is immaculate. The one before this on Sepulveda Boulevard, let's give them a quick taste, Pete. It was a little crappy, and it was in a very dangerous and loud intersection. And as you mentioned, there was a landlord. The only thing he knew how to handle black mold or leaks was to install a sheet metal plate and make holes in the wall. And so by the end, by the many years that I lived there, it was mostly metal and less wall. The oven would fill up with gas for a while, and then the ignition light would go off. So the front door of the oven would blow open in a very small, but still, any ball of flame is a ball of flame. And it would go crang, crang. And I'd be like, great, now it's time for my Totinos. Because the gas pulled up. There was a neighbor upstairs who I called, I will not say his name, of course, but I called him Qu'est-ce que c'est? Do you know why I called him Qu'est-ce que c'est? Because I believe he was
psycho killer.
Psycho killer. Exactly.
Psycho
right.
killer.
From the Talking Heads song, Psycho Killer Qu'est-ce que c'est? He once told me that he physically pulled a demon out of someone. Not figuratively.
No, he didn't.
I give you my word. Friends of the show, Nicole Ann Reynolds, friends of the show, Kim Kelly, they will back me up on this. He physically, at a party, pulled a demon out of someone. He was, again, qu'est-ce que c'est? And we weren't allowed, it was 900,000 degrees, but we couldn't have AC units because it hurt the facade of the front of the building. And yet, for 2 years, they never replaced the 4 in the address after it fell off on the ground. So no AC units, because how gauche. But then you couldn't find our building because one of the 3 numbers was missing.
Landlording, you know what? The bar for being a landlord sounds pretty low. Like maybe this whole segment should be why Tom should invest in becoming a landlord instead of a homeowner, because you've got mad skills.
Yeah, apparently being an absentee is a part of it.
Yeah.
An absentee landlord comes with the job, but my landlords here are outstanding.
Okay.
So it's back and forth. So yeah, so it's obviously not, oh, I've just been accidentally stumbled into this utopia. So why don't I want a house? Here are the things I'm worried about. And then now I want to officially switch it back to you and say, were you worried about these things? Or because I'm learning from you as a homeowner of like, I'm having to fix things myself or paying outside contractors to do it. Stuff breaks in my apartment all the time. And then you make an appointment over the internet and this guy named Jesus comes and he fixes it, or they have outside contractors do it. And it's great. In the few times when they haven't been able to get to it, I've had to use outside fixtures, and the prices are ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Through the roof. And they cancel appointments and they don't show up, and we'll be there from 12 to 12 the next day. When the apartment, they just send someone that day. And so I love that. I've had friends who have redone parts of their houses, and when it's all up to you to figure out all the coding and all of that stuff. I mean, it seems like an absolute nightmare. Granted, when you live in an apartment, it's not like you're redoing your kitchen, but if you want to switch things around, they will let you know how to do it. Yes, I'm throwing money away a lot that I'm not getting back, but and we might as well sort of start tipping our feet into the current housing market, especially in Southern California, where I live.
Ridiculous.
It is an enormous investment. I mean, the idea of you're already crippled with student loans and now you're throwing so much money at what has become and is slowly becoming a risk. That was the one thing that everything was based on. The one thing that will never pop is the housing bubble until it does.
Until it
And then
does.
it destroys the nation's economy. And then there's another weird thing for someone who's so, I could say loyal, I could also say lazy, but the idea of, so I would like go to a place, I fall in love with it and I stay there for a long time. But the idea of being tied down so much, like there's just no mobility. It's a huge change to your life. What if you found out that you made a mistake? Moving apartments, it's pretty easy compared to selling a house and then moving it.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, I live in Southern California and money here. I mean, I don't know where I would have to move. I'd have to move so far away from my friends and in order to get a place.
Yes.
The offset of that is my one big regret is, there's no possibility of gaining value as an investment. Luckily, spoiler alert, I'm very privileged to have done pretty well in investments and stuff. So I'm okay as far as that's concerned. My biggest regret is no yard for Foster.
Yeah.
Foster, new listeners,
You can't
is my
just
dog.
open the door.
I can't just open the door and let him out. And that's his favorite thing, is to just like when he stays in other people's camps and stuff when I'm traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a whole lot of a dump of my own feelings, insecurities, worries. Where does it strike you? And this is never a conversation of, prove home ownership for me. That's not the point. That ship has sailed. It's more, how do you deal with these, and were these worries, and what is it like for you?
Well, I would probably make so I was talking to my mom about this because that's where I am right now. And she reminded me that when she and my dad bought our first family home in Colorado, interest rates were 16%. 16%. We have to let that settle in because interest rates continue to creep up and things are not looking great, but only when you compare them to our sub 3% interest rates where we were able to lock in our loan. So I say all that because the first thing to remember is that interest rates are also a conversation of privilege. And the fact that we were able to lock in, I mean, I moved into this home from an apartment, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment in Mountain View, California. And we moved to Portland and got a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house for vastly less that I was paying in rent, like half. Right. So there is a sort of economic privilege. Now, the downside is, as you said, I'm locked in on that for, our first loan, our first mortgage was 30 years. So I'm paying that rate, but that's never going to go up. There's no landlord that says, this year I've decided to raise it 6%. There's none of that risk or fear. So as long as I can sort of stomach that at the bare minimum, then I feel like I'm in good shape. And as you said, we have refinanced our mortgage a number of times to do big things, right? When we want to do renovations, when we want to buy a car, when we want to, we never did that to buy a car. That would be a terrible idea. But to change things in our house.
Buy your scratchers.
Right. Right. But, we've used that value. And in fact, we sort of consider, given the price of college that we're dealing with right now, that ultimately when it comes time to actually pay that final bill, there's probably a refinance in our future. And the value of our home that we've paid into for years is going to ultimately send the kids to finish college. And so that asset has become something we can use. And so that, first and foremost, is, how I rationalize all the other, downsides of kind of owning a home. The other upside, the kind of close number 2 that you've talked about, and I don't understand why it's not more important to you, is sometimes you just want to move stuff around and paint stuff and rip up your floors and do new floors. And that is of high value to me. Like, I think it's interesting to do that. And when I want to do that, I don't want to have the agency to do that. I don't want some landlord telling me, no, we kind of have a standard and you have to stick with that standard. If we did it for you, we'd have to do it for everybody.
Right.
So that is very important. That agency as a homeowner is also important to me. And I don't know if that's passé now. Maybe it is, but we had neighbors move in next door, paint their perfectly serviceable brown house like black, cut out the gorgeous cherry trees and replace them with, I'll say it twice just so you hear it, palm trees in Portland, and pave most of the side of his house so that he can park his lawn company trucks there. You can't just do that with an apartment. Now, I don't love it. I don't love the aesthetic, but he is meticulously clean, and he actually, I don't think, is dropped the value of the home because he's actually a good homeowner. He keeps his stuff tidy.
It does make sense that if someone was going to pave over grass, it would be a lawn company. Like, he's had enough grass. He's good. He wants to live in an asphalt world.
Yeah. So you get so those are the two things that I think keep me really loving. But the other thing is, and I think I think you may be overstating the challenges of moving. Is moving. I don't think it's as hard. Now, we haven't moved, right? We're pretty settled, but we're starting to think about moving, and we have an asset in our house that we can leverage into a new house pretty easily, even in this market. Like, we feel confident in being able to find a new place and move there and make it not as complicated as I think. And I think I'm the one in our relationship between me and my wife who has more anxiety about moving. And even I'm coming around to seeing, you know what, it's actually not that hard. Right.
Okay.
The hardest part is getting all our stuff out and like replacing the carpet because the carpet is trashed and we just have been kind of lazy and inertia. And, there are things we're going to have to do to actually sell the house. So that's just like juggling time. Like, do we have to rent a house for a few months or something like that?
Yeah. I guess I was assuming that it was going to be so much harder because when I leave this place, someone else has to replace the carpet. Someone else has to find a buyer. Someone else has to do half of that work. I don't have to do any of it. They have to repaint it because of California law. They have to repaint it and fully carpet it. I don't have to do a thing other than maybe lose more of my security deposit, which I can't imagine I'm getting much back. But if you're saying that pales in comparison to the actual trauma of physically moving, I get it.
It really does, because the if you are handy, you can do some extent of it yourself. But ultimately, what we're really talking about is working with an agent who is going to help you find a house and navigate the sales process. You don't have to talk, like, they are essentially your outsourced landlord.
Right. You're not just raw dogging it yourself and out on the street with a sign that says house.
Exactly.
Arrow.
God,
Okay.
would that it were that easy. House, arrow.
House arrow.
So
That's very good.
that's and I'm sure there are people listening who are like, for sale by owner, FSBO, do it yourself, do it all yourself, and you can totally do that. Like, you can run that whole thing yourself if you want. But for me, it's like, ultimately, we have this asset, and a portion of the value of the asset goes toward paying for the entire universe of the move. And we just know that. It's taxes, it's agent fees, it's the cost of the rental truck, like all of that is built into the move process. We're really just throwing money at a challenge, and that seems to work.
All of that makes sense. And I didn't think about some of those things in that way. So I appreciate it. I still don't know if it's for me. And I do like the idea of bringing up the changes for certain people, especially as property and housing crises and everything continues, whether it will continue to be a part of the American dream in the way that it is now is going to be a fascinating change.
Well, for this example, right, if we tried to buy our own house today, we could not afford it.
Right.
Real estate values are so insane in our lovely Oregon that we would have to really scramble to figure out how to afford our own house. And that is stunning. And it puts you in a position, especially in LA, like you talk about, how far would I have to move if I were to buy a house? And, how far would I have to move away from my friends? Well, Tom, you'd have to move to Nevada, right? Like, there's just, I don't know how anyone could enter the market today in Los Angeles County.
Yeah. I can live, as long as all my friends are chatbots.
Yeah.
That sounds fine. I can move wherever I want. I could just finally buy that weird boat that I saw outside of someone's lawn. Yeah.
Did we solve any of your problems today? How do you feel?
Well, I don't think it was really a problem to solve. It was more, I wanted to share my feelings about it and then hear from a homeowner what your feelings about it. One thing you didn't touch on is when stuff breaks, you have to fix it. Is that a big deal?
It's less of a big deal than you think.
Okay. Because there's so many contractors now.
Yeah, there are all kinds of, you can get insurance policies on things like gas pipes and water mains and all of that. We've had to replace the big ones, the ones that make you choke and make you tighten up your butt cheeks real hard. Painting your house is very expensive. New roofs, very expensive. I say painting, but really, if you have to do new siding, it's extraordinarily expensive. Multiples of tens of thousands of dollars that you have to have. And so those are upgrades to the house that you really are talking about refinancing, taking it out of the value of the house because there's no other way to do it. But we had to do a new air conditioner and furnace that died very recently. Totally approachable. We were able to do that in a way that they just make it easy because the contractors know it's a thing of anxiety for people to do this, and so we have never run into any issues where it just felt like this. We even replaced all of our windows with triple pane windows, and it was amazing, right? Just in terms of keeping the house hot and cold, like that's not a choice you get to make as a renter, to replace your windows and glass doors with upgrades. And we were able to do that, and it made a massive difference in our quality of life, which is substantial.
All right. I like it. No, this gives me
What
food
do I
for
need
thought.
to do to get you into this house today?
Well, let me posit you this, okay? And we can sort of end on this thinker. You can let me know. What if I moved to a house but still needed a demon taken out of someone? Where's your contractor for that, Pete?
Om Nom Shivai. Om Nom Shivai. Shakti Day.
Sorry I'm late. I was at home edging, and I just didn't want to come.
Bumper sticker seen on a Ford F-150 honking at a pedestrian in Valley Village, California. Imagine you're living in London in the early 1700s. There's coal smoke in the air, chamber pots in the street, and your house, well, it's dark. Not because you can't afford candles, but because you've bricked up all your windows. Why? Because the government has decided to tax sunlight. In 1696, England passed a law that came to be known rather straightforwardly as the window tax. The more windows in your house, the more you paid. It was a proxy for wealth in a time before income was easily tracked. Glass was expensive, so the thinking went, more windows equals more money equals more taxes. But as any adult who's stared down the surprise bill can tell you, when the tax man comes, we get creative. Landlords and homeowners began sealing up windows with brick and mortar. Builders designed houses with fewer windows from the start, and when the wealthy subdivided their homes and rented them out, poor tenants inherited the gloom, crammed into sunless rooms with poor ventilation. The policy, intended to tax the rich, ended up making life darker, literally, for the poor. Physicians even blamed it for increased rates of disease, all because someone thought taxing light was a clever idea. The window tax remained on the books for over 150 years, because if there's one thing more persistent than mildew, it's bad tax policy. And it's also a good reminder, tax season has always been weird, and adulting has never been intuitive.
Game begin.
You want to help us keep the metaphorical windows open around here and avoid tax absurdity? We'd love to invite you to become a feeling friend. For just $35 per season or $25 if you renew annually, you're helping cover the actual costs of producing this show. Our time, our editing, our brand new live streams, and all the emotional labor of confronting adulthood with a microphone and a half-finished to-do list. You'll always get access to members-only episodes like our very raw, very real dining episodes, and our upcoming bonus material we're still dreaming up. Plus, you get a sticker, a real one. You can put it on your laptop, your water bottle, your W-2, wherever you feel feelings. And of course, our undying love comes right along with it, which, unlike income, is not taxable yet. Join the Feeling Friends today at allthefeelings.fun because adulting is hard, but it's slightly less terrifying with a sticker and bonus content. And now, back to the show.
Subset 2.
Taxes.
Tom,
Peter,
it's my turn now.
you're the captain now.
You know that feeling when you're taking a test and no one told you there was a test and the subject is math and you've somehow already failed it and also it determines whether or not you go to jail? Do you know that?
No, that is a new level of anxiety.
Welcome to tax season, Tom. My contribution this week is taxes when it comes to money, because every year, like clockwork, I find myself staring down a stack of forms, or actually worse, it's the online interface that seems like it was designed by vengeful AI or like a Playmobil dungeon master, right? It's just horrible. And I feel like I've been handed a Scantron and a number 2 pencil for a course I definitely did not take. And and this is really important. It's not math anxiety. I also have that. This is adulting anxiety, right? It's that suspicion that I'm faking my way through something other people understand. And that's really hard because it lives so perniciously in my own head. But apparently I'm not alone. As Albert Einstein once said, yes, Tom, that Albert Einstein, the hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax. If the man who explained the nature of time and space can't figure out a 1040, I feel like I could breathe a little sigh of relief.
He can't get a job at Intuit, but he can lead to the atomic bomb in part. Right.
I like this. I went down the rabbit hole of finding quotes of other famous people who are successful people, I would say, who also share this anxiety. Dave Barry says it's income tax time again, Americans. It's time to gather up all those receipts, get those tax forms, sharpen up that pencil, and stab yourself in the aorta. It sort of summarizes that for me. Apparently, I'm not alone. According to the APA, American Psychological Association, nearly 80% of U.S. adults say money is a significant source of stress, and every April that stress takes a very specific paperwork-shaped form. The IRS even knows this, which is why they publish extensive tips on coping with tax time stress, which it's kind of like your dentist handing you a lollipop at a root canal.
Yeah, that's not what they should be solving. They should be solving the process.
Yeah, real high jump, low ceiling kind of strategy there. So I think the pressure to understand your tax situation year to year, to master it, to not get it wrong, it's just relentless for me. So that January through April is just filled with tremendous money anxiety. So that's what I want to talk about today, the emotional chaos of feeling like the dumbest person in the room full of invisible accountants, because no one ever taught me this, right? I'll say me. I think us is appropriate, and somehow we're expected to just be fluent. Why does this feel so hard? What is behind this fear, and do you share it? So, Tom, get your emotional calculator out. Tell me how you feel.
Well, I've never understood why it's done like it's done. Right. When the government says, give us all that information. And you're like, you have it. And they're like, you give it to us. And then we'll check it to see if it's right. Maybe. I don't understand why. I mean, why don't we just get a bill? I know that you could argue. I would think it would just be, you get a bill You say, here's what I think I shouldn't have to pay because of these reasons. And then they go, okay. And then you get a refund or whatever it is. Instead, it's this weird, it's a teacher saying, you write up the test and the answers. and
Yeah.
then I'll
And then
take a
I'll
look,
grade you.
and then I'll grade you. I've never understood why it's done in such a weird backward way. Other than it's a way of catching people or something. It reminds me of like how every business term has 9 different synonyms.
Yes.
And the only reason that that's true is to put certain people in charge of it, because it makes it too impossible for the layman to understand on purpose, because then we are reliant on them, said
Right.
a guy who's probably going to be audited just for saying that.
Right now. Yes.
Right
Yeah.
now.
Excuse me, let me bring your auditor into the call.
Yeah, this is why you come to the live stream, everybody, to see the doors burst open behind me.
You're being swatted, but by the IRS.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
My
there's not
biggest
enough
part-
staff there right now, so you'll be fine.
I know it is fun this is the time when maybe this is the last time we'll ever have taxes or a democracy. My biggest stress is always because I'm a private contractor, subcontractor. I do so many small things for so many different organizations that tracking down all of that stuff in order to send it in at the right time. And some of these companies are like, wait, what? You need that from us? And it's because some of it, I mean, I've never done anything under the table, but just making sure that I have all of that ready is tough.
Yeah. And I'm with you because my job is that of having many clients and individual financial relationships with all
Right.
of them. Tax time gets more confusing. I don't have a lot of the other adulting-oriented stuff in my tax form. I don't have any crypto, Tom. I don't know if that surprises you. I don't do crypto. I don't have a whole bunch of real estate I have to deal with. I don't have multiple businesses. It's just my business. So there are a lot of things a lot of pieces. It's not overly complicated, and yet I am paralyzed by it because of things like this. I have a list of real IRS form lines that I don't think I should ever have to understand. Multiply line 9 by 15%. Why do I have to do any simple math for you on the form? How about this? Attach Schedule F if you are a farmer. I'm not a farmer, Tom. I'm never going to be a farmer. The IRS should know this. There should be a box where I can say, stop asking me if I am a farmer. You must recapture any gain deferred under Section 1045 or 1202.
What?
Now we're getting into specific forms that I should just know or find a reference in the smallest typeface of all time. I don't understand how to rationalize if I had a home office, enter the total square footage of your home used exclusively for business. It's my home. I defy you to find someone who doesn't use their office for some personal stuff and doesn't actually say that on their taxes. This is a ridiculous bit of entrapment. That's what these questions are. They are entrapment. You may not claim the credit if your MAGI is 90,000 or more, 180,000 or more if married or filing jointly. Why are we talking about the MAGI?
What is the MAGI?
Well, apparently
What
it
is the MAGI?
stands...
Like the gift of the MAGI?
It sounds like Eastern sorcery.
If you gave your wife a comb and she cut off all her hair to buy you a watch, then you have to check a box.
That's exactly right. It's either that or your modified adjusted gross income, which is also ridiculous. So these
Equally
are the
as
kinds
mystical.
of things. Yeah. Do not staple or paperclip your return. When's the last time you dealt with a paper return? Do people still do it with pencil? I guess they do. But for me, I'm on the Playmobil version.
It's those aforementioned farmers.
Yeah, farmers do it. It's just awful. So I started asking the internet, it's like Reddit. I asked Reddit for a summary of reasons why people have tax anxiety because, as we said, the APA says 90% of Americans feel this because it's so stupid. It turns out I really had to narrow it down to get to 10. These are kind of grouped. But I'm gonna start. Do you want to take a guess at any of them? Should we make this a game? Is there a game involved here, or is it just pain?
Yeah, let's try a game, but I don't understand the parameters. And I don't blame you because my game was a disaster.
This is going to be like a family. This is going to be like a Family Feud style game.
Oh, okay.
Survey respondents said, what are the top 10 reasons people feel tax anxiety?
Oh, got it. Why? Okay. So I would say is being audited on the board.
Ding, ding, ding. Survey says, number one, fear of doing it wrong. Even small mistakes can feel like catastrophic. When it comes to taxes, people are terrified about audits, penalties, and triggering a government takedown just by checking the wrong box. You read some of these comments on Reddit, Tom, and people are really genuinely terrified. And it's from one of them I read was like, I'm starting to feel real pressure here. I'm a independent contractor, and life got out of hand. I haven't filed taxes since 2020. Like, I get it, but part of that is because the system is broken, and part of it is because your life fell apart. But somewhere in between, we can find a solution. Number two, lack of just understanding, because tax language is so notoriously opaque. It's terrible. Deductions and credits and adjusted gross income and withholding, they throw these terms around, and we don't use these terms around if we're not accountants in our day-to-day life. We just don't. And so once a year, we have to understand them.
Right. It's like contracts and legalese.
Yeah.
It's written in old-timey English at times in order to, I think, in order to justify lawyers.
Yeah. I've got number 3 here is back to one that I love so much, math anxiety. Because taxes require real math, not theoretical math, but calculator tapping, number comparing, carry the one, math. And for people with math anxiety in this country, especially where our math skills are not engineering level, this triggers just a lot of stress and avoidance.
And so many people just don't use that type of math ever, except for this situation. Yeah.
Right. Fear of owing money. You already said the fear of the audit. The moment you hit submit, right, you find out you owe the IRS money and didn't budget for it, right? There's panic. We're in this position where because of a job change, my wife's job change last year, we absolutely did not withhold enough between us and ended up with a massive tax bill for the year. Massive. Wow. And that hurt to the point where we're borrowing against ourselves in order to pay the IRS. And yet this year, somehow, we're getting a lot of money back. I don't know why, Tom. I can't explain why. I can't explain why.
Box,
Which is actually number 7, which is the black box. That even though you look at an accountant and you say, can you explain tax policy to me? They probably could, and maybe given enough time and words, they could do it in a way that I would understand, but they don't have time and enough words to do that.
Right.
And I don't have enough time and patience to study it. And so here we are, the black box. It works because it works. That's what it means. So all of these things, the others on here besides those 4 we've talked about, time pressure, procrastination, document chaos, keeping what receipts, where do you put them? Do you scan them? Are you allowed to scan them? Why do you have to keep them? Who do you give them to? Shame and embarrassment. Adults feel like they should know how to do their taxes, and yet most adults absolutely feel awash at this process. And financial insecurity, taxes always, inevitably force you to confront your own financial reality. And sometimes you may not want to face that.
Sure.
And finally, unpredictable rules and changes, things that you're just supposed to know about because it's a footnote somewhere that this year is different from the last 20 years. Good luck. And so it makes you feel sort of like you're outside of your scope of agency all that much more. I feel like it boils down to this. I started writing and kind of scripting and trying to feel my way through why I'm nervous about this stuff. And it's this is where it boils down, because it's not just about paperwork. It's because the tax system makes me face my own competence, control, and fear of punishment.
competence control. So it's making you feel very young.
Yeah.
In your most adulting activity, it's making you feel powerless like a child.
Mm-hmm. Like we've talked about for so many years, there's no real exposure therapy for this. If I had to do it every day, I could probably get over this. But because I do it once a year or at best 4 times a year, I never get sort of inoculated to those feelings.
Yeah.
All right. So go back to you. I've been talking too much. What's your situation?
But my situation is the same as yours. We have a family accountant. Again, Privilege McGee has a family accountant that takes care of a lot of the checks and marks, so I don't have to do all those things, but making sure she or they has everything that they need on time, in order. I also have to deal with the fact that I made a movie, and we have producers, that contributed large amounts of money to the movie. So I have to make sure they have their K1s, they have all their stuff. So there is a juggling act that has to happen, even just with that. That's sort of my real estate, in effect.
Right.
But I want to just say again, I don't want to sound like a kook. I don't consider myself an anti-American or anti-patriot, but it just does feel like it's on purpose. It feels like a fix is in with these kind of things, that it's all of that can be boiled down. The fact that it makes you feel young, the fact that it makes you feel scared, that it makes everyone feel scared, that's control. It's control, and it's a boogeyman. How many people do you know have been audited?
1.
Yeah, compared to all the people that you know.
Yeah.
I would like to make 2 terrible, terrible comparisons to what taxes makes me feel. One is a boogeyman, and the other is a line in the sand. The boogeyman that reminds me of is every year out here in Los Angeles, we have HOV lanes, HOV lanes, where you're only able to use them on the highways if you are carpooling, if you have more than one person. And every year, the amount, and there are signs up everywhere, the amount that goes up, that if you break it, if they catch you and you're in that lane and there's only one of you, it's up to like $450 now. It's astronomical. How many people do I know that have broken that law that have ever been pulled over? None. Because I think that the signs are the boogeyman, that they throw so much scary stuff at you that the idea of making taxes so Byzantine and so weird, you can't even think about trying to commit crimes unless you're really good at it, because you're afraid to even get the truth wrong. So it's a way of keeping you in your lane. Oh, I made an actual analogy.
That was really good.
I did it. The other one that I wanted to say is the line in the sand. I brought up how archaic the language is and like legalese and things. It's like when I moved out here, the business has changed, but I was never trying to be an actor, but I was working with casting, with all these different things. And there were so many lines in the sand of when you get there, as soon as you had to have representation. And the first thing representation would say, you need new headshots and you need a new CV. And then if you ever change, you need new headshots. It was like so much of the business just was around keeping other people in business.
Yes.
But you could take a whole subject, a subset of the business out of it, and everything would work fine. But instead, everyone has a friend who's a photo guy, and that's who they recommend. And there was just whole businesses based on getting you to the place to be able to maybe have a chance to act.
Right.
And I get that too, because that's the reason that's why accountants exist in parts. And tax lawyers and all this stuff is because it's made to not be able to understand by the layman on purpose.
If you just look at all the lobbying that's gone on to stop the government from having an easy file system that they own, because, Intuit is the mob.
Companies will go out of business. Yeah, they are. Yeah, you're buying protection.
Yeah,
against yourself.
It's protection money. That's right.
Yeah. So those are my things. I mean, I get very angry. But it's also incredibly capitalistic.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It feels, unfortunately, it's an ugly American side of things.
These are the fruits that we reap.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, that's I don't have I don't have a real tidy bow to wrap this up in, because
you didn't solve taxes.
It is. I did not solve taxes today.
You're right.
But it does. Just talking about it and just reading how many people have tax problems, I feel like is really helpful to me, that it feels like I'm not We've talked about it for 10 seasons. We're not alone.
We're not alone.
We're not
That's
alone.
the tagline. We're not alone. Yeah.
Even if this situation is just confusing finances and systems and threats of boogeyman consequences, I guess it's the adulting version of getting called on in class and being terrified that I studied the wrong chapter,
1,000%.
Yeah. So that's where I live and I thank God that we're recording this in May, and I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Okay, good. And then you remember that one box.
Bring your whole baby home. Say no to circumcision.
Bumper sticker seen on a car parked in front of a Petco in Burbank, California.
Well, I'm poor, I'm broke, I'm living free. I ain't got a nickel or dime. I'm just living life in Tennessee, and I'm trying to catch a steamboat on time.
Well, Tom, we did it. Episode 1, Season 10. It's out the door.
Okay, I was nervous about this one.
I know, me too. Coming down it's just been looming on my schedule. Are we going to have anything to say?
But I'm so excited to be back, and I'm really excited for this. This is proof. This was the concept of the proof of concept that we can still podcast and talk about things like non-morons at least some of the time. Yeah.
Yes, we can. And thank you all so much for downloading this show, this episode, for sharing it with friends and accountants. We appreciate your time and your attention. The tune this week is Poor, Broke, and Living Free by Unknown River. We'll be back next week. Our topic is
health and fitness, two things that I love talking about all the time, and I would talk more now, but I got to get my reps in. As Pete and all the Feeling Friends know, I'm all about the gains, so we'll be talking about health and fitness, and so until then, I'm Tommy Metz III.
And I'm Pete Wright. Thanks for downloading. We'll be back next week with all the feelings, adulting.